Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our financial data series. Today we have, our friend George Kroustalis back with us, and today he's going to be talking about like spending. And so, thank you, George, for being back with us today.
Thank you, Sam. Great to be here.
So, George, I'm excited to hear from you. Like, what can you tell us in your book, Secrets of Becoming a Financial Badass? You talk a lot about spending. So, can you? I understand that you started a chapter talking about the credit score and how that is so important for us to becoming a financial badass, just like yourself. So, can you guide us on how that works and why is that important?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I started that chapter talking about spending being the fun part because it is fun, right? We make money, we spend money, and especially the U.S. consumer is known around the globe as this is a spending economy, uh, and there's needs and wants, and it's much more fun, obviously, to spend on what you want. But I start with the credit score because I wanted to get across to the reader that this is like your financial grade in school. Think of it that way. And companies that down the road you will be buying things from look at your credit score. You want to buy a car? They look at your credit score. You want to buy a house? Heck, you want to rent a house or get a lease? They look at your credit score. So it's used to show someone's overall financial health, ability to pay back. I mean, how many times have I spoken to someone and said, why don't you just borrow the money? And they say, well, I can't. My credit score is too low and I can't get that rate. They can't get the best rate, which is the lowest interest rate, because of a credit score or a poor credit score. So we talk about why it's important. We tell the reader how to check it. And more importantly, or most importantly, we tell them how to improve the score and how to keep it on that very good to excellent range, which, let's face it, makes life a little easier.
So I'm assuming that the credit score is something that I guess you can use to get good credit when you're trying to buy like something big, right? Like maybe like a car or a house, like one of those big ticket items.
That's exactly right. A lot of the sellers of this, I know for a car from a personal experience, they give you the best rate or the lowest rate depending on this credit score. And that rate's important if you're going to be borrowing money, which a lot of us do now. It's very different if you're going to pay for it in cash, but not many people, maybe there are many people, but not many people we know still pay for cars and other big ticket items like that in all cash.
Yep.
There's other uses for cash, as you know, Sam.
Yeah, which I guess, it brings me to think like, okay, so if you have cash, should you pay for this big ticket items or should you use, like some sort of credit? Like I guess it brings me to the question, like really, like is all debt bad?
That's a great question, one we get often. So let me break it down to you in this example. First off, all debt is not bad. We break down and isolate good debt and what's known as bad debt. Let me give you an example of good debt. Having a mortgage on your home.
Okay.
In the last number of years, let's call it beyond decade, interest rates in this country have been historically on the lower end of the range. It's fair to say that. Plus, for mortgages under a threshold, most of the time that's around $750,000, the interest is deductible. Now, again, these tax legislation change all the time, but that's what it is currently. So given that low rates, and I can, deduct the interest. And by the way, I own a piece of equity. I own equity in a home, which in theory is an appreciating asset, not depreciating, appreciating. It makes some sense to have that debt. If I've got $100,000, am I going to put it all into a mortgage where the interest rate, let's say, is 4.25%? Or do I borrow the money at 4.25% and use most of this cash to invest. If I think that I can earn higher than 4.25% over a market cycle, one would think it would maybe make sense to invest that money versus putting it against the debt and having no debt. So that's, a very good example of using debt wisely.
So how does that compare to like a credit card, right? Like, is a credit card like a good or a bad debt example?
That's typically a bad debt example. However, there is an asterisk there. And the reason why is because, and I'm a credit card user. I use it for miles accumulation. And it makes my life with American Airlines much more pleasant most of the time. And that is the primary reason to use a credit card. It also helps build your credit score. Okay. Paying it back on a timely fashion. So I like the use of credit card, smart credit cards that are giving some benefit back to you if you spend money on that credit card. I like the idea of paying it off. If not all of it, very close to 90+% of it, and carrying a very small balance, because the interest rate on credit cards, outside of a sign-up period or some free period of 0% interest rate, I haven't seen anything that's as low as mortgage rates at 4.25% or even lower in years past.
And you're gonna teach us all about like how to do that in chapter 2, right, George?
That is exactly right. Chapter 2, spending. It just talks about, look, we all got to spend money. Let's make sure here and there where we can help it, we are spending money wisely, because that gives us more money on the savings side. And of course, if it's long-term savings, we want to invest that money and earn the most we can on that money.
That's wonderful. Thank you, George. And for everyone out there, please go ahead and find your book, Secrets to Becoming a Financial Badass, from our friend, George Kroustalis. Thank you, George. We'll see you in chapter 3 about investing.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.